We've been hearing about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency for years now, but as more money moves to crypto, is it time to buy? Here to join us with a full guide on how to begin investing in cryptocurrency is Eric Wade with Crypto Capital. Thank you so much for joining us today, Eric.
Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so let's talk about, is it too late? We've heard a lot of headlines recently about Bitcoin continuing to reach new all-time highs, up over $100,000. Are people too late if they haven't started investing in cryptocurrency yet?
Absolutely not. And I know it can feel that way because there's been so much talk about cryptos and so acceptance among states and acceptance among Washington, D.C. Even we have a pro crypto president, might feel like it's too late. But really, that's almost like saying that the internet was too late to invest in apps or something in 2010 or something like that, right? We all know it may have felt too late, but there were still trillions of dollars to be made. And to maybe finish this thought off, sure, we're hearing about crypto everywhere we turn, and it's exciting, and there's meme coins, and there's people making money on it. But what you have to ask yourself is it really being used everywhere I turn, or is it just being talked about? Because that's the next level of growth for cryptocurrencies and for blockchain technology is let's stop talking about it and start really using it everywhere. There's a little bit of it being used for different transactions around the world even, but it's not everywhere. And that's our opportunity really that I think for anybody who's thinking, "Oh, I missed this cycle again." No, you really haven't. We're starting to use this technology. We're by no means is the technology being used everywhere, and that's when the big money can really be made.
Yeah, it still does seem early. Like you said, it's not being utilized as intended quite yet. So, do you think most investors are starting to dip into crypto, or is there still a large market of people who just haven't gone there quite yet?
It's the second part. There's a large market of people that, for whatever reason, they hear it's volatile, they hear it's like a startup, maybe it's even challenging for them to invest in it, or they hear from someone that they missed out on a meme coin or something like that, and they can find an excuse not to invest. But what we're seeing is by far the majority of people still haven't started investing. And it's maybe half as many people invest in cryptos, and I'm just shooting from the top of my head here, but half as many people invest in cryptos as maybe in aggressive stocks. So we've still got a lot of room to catch up with that. A lot of people still to get on board.
And that's a lot of our viewers, our retail investors here who are very comfortable investing in the stock market. And so for some people who aren't comfortable learning crypto, and we're going to talk about that, how to start investing in crypto, is it a safe bet to start on some of the more traditional stock market options that are cryptocurrency investments?
Absolutely, and we've had a great run of as obvious and as simple as it might seem, the ETFs being approved for spot holding of Bitcoin and then Ethereum and whatever comes next. That's been a real boon for a lot of investors because it's easy. You can buy it in your Fidelity account or maybe your Schwab account or something like that, but it gets you exposure to the industry itself. Now, technically, everybody who buys ETFs or buys stocks knows, in most cases, someone else owns the underlying asset on your behalf. That hasn't changed. That you may not technically literally own Bitcoin if you buy the Bitcoin ETF, but it's a great place to start, gets you some exposure, shows the industry that you're interested in that, and then you could take the next step from there. That's why they've been so popular. Some of the most popular ETF launches of all time were the cryptocurrency ETFs that were approved just a year ago.
Right. And they're just comfortable for investors who are used to investing that way. But let's talk about if you are ready to get out of your comfort zone and you want to explore how do I actually start investing in crypto, in Bitcoin, the way many seasoned crypto investors have been doing and seeing a lot of success in too.
You may want to think about it like when you first went to college or trade school or something like that. You have to learn the first steps first. You have to learn to be a good student before you can become a doctor or before you can become an accountant or something like that, right? You don't just start off with your senior thesis or your PhD level work or something like that, right? It's obvious to us when I say it like that. So with cryptocurrencies, don't be afraid to start with the basics. Everybody I know started with just how do I get my hands on a little bit of Bitcoin? And it's easy to us. But if you're just starting out, maybe your first Bitcoin is you add Fidelity crypto to your Fidelity account. If you don't use Fidelity, then you might say, well, what about Coinbase or Kraken or Gemini? And if I'm saying names of companies that you've maybe heard about but you haven't really thought about, it's as simple as I just want to open a new brokerage account. A Kraken account or a Gemini account, very similar to when you opened your first Schwab or E-Trade or Fidelity account, or even a bank account. They need your name, they need your ID, they need a little bit of information about you, and then you find a way to get some money in there. Sounds pretty familiar, doesn't it? Sounds just like buying a stock. So we're fortunate that the exchange portions of our industry really have paved the road, really have made it very easy. Coinbase, American company, publicly traded, highly regulated. They make it very easy to buy cryptos. But there's a lot of other ones out there as well. And I think just setting your mind to, I'm gonna do this. Pick a number, $100, $1,000, and I'm gonna buy some Bitcoin. And then when I'm bored of that, maybe I'll buy some Ethereum. Maybe then I'll start looking for other altcoins out there as well. Take it step by step, just like if you were starting your pursuit for an education, because there is going to be some education involved. You have to learn how some of these work, but it's literally as easy as opening a brokerage account and just taking that first step. Now there's ways you can complicate it, but
Of
that's what
course.
your second and third and fourth and whatever years of education are for, is you can make it as complicated as you want once you get that first little bit started.
So it sounds like Bitcoin is a very easy first step, first purchase to make. But as we all know, and you've heard about all these different coins, there are so many options, really endless options of different altcoins out there. What can beginner crypto investors know about that part of this industry?
I don't want to say literally unlimited, but it's as creative and open to entrepreneurs and creativity and artists. And that can be a little intimidating for people because, well, do I buy a meme coin? Do I buy something that I think is going to change the way technology works? Do I, look for something that's going to be like the next internet, etc.? Yes, all of the above on those. So what a lot of people find themselves doing is they seek out something that they maybe have a familiarity with or an affinity for. That's why the meme coins have done so well. Is it may sound silly to buy a coin just because it's got a cute dog as the motif or something like that. But we like cats, we like dogs, right? So some of the most popular videos on YouTube or TikTok or something, right? It's just people and their dogs and cats. And so that explains why the affinity for the meme coins has kind of taken root. And I don't want to oversimplify it, but if there's something you like or something you have an expertise in, or you feel like some of our investors, they buy gold-backed cryptocurrencies because they like gold and they just want that digital experience. Well, gold isn't for everyone. Gold's been around for thousands of years, but investors by now, especially investors who are watching your show, they know whether they're gold investors or not. So maybe they look for something that's more like, well, what about upgrading the internet? I understand you can do that with blockchain. Okay, now you're onto something. Now you do a little bit of research, or we do the research for you, and we find cryptos that fit with that. Like, maybe your goal is finance. I understand Wall Street is paying attention to blockchain. Why don't you find me some cryptos that Wall Street likes? Well, where Wall Street goes, profits follow, right? Or banking, or foreign countries. Maybe there's cryptos that are more suited for different countries, different cultures. All of that works. So it's the benefit and the nuisance of we've got a crypto for you. no matter what your interests are.
Well, I think again, traditional investors are used to being able to look at an investment, a new stock, a new company out there and say, I'm investing in this idea. I think that they have a chance to succeed. But they also look at their financials and their earnings report and the history of this company and this stock before choosing to invest. What do you look at when you're looking at these different altcoins and making choices? What kind of parameters do you look at?
Fantastic question. And that's one of the tougher speed bumps for good investors, especially the better educated of an investor you are. That can be a frustrating speed bump for investing in cryptos because quite often there is no board of directors, there is no quarterly report, there's no free cash flow, dividends, earnings. Maybe not. There may not even be in any kind of profits whatsoever. So what do you look for? And I go back to when I very first started investing in cryptos. I started off with Bitcoin and then I went to Ethereum and then I started looking at, well, how do I even know what I'm looking at? And we came up with parameters that fit for when the other ones don't. What's it being used for? If you can't explain to me what this crypto is being used for, I'll pass. I want to work on, I only want to invest in something that I understand who even would use this? Who's the audience on this? How decentralized is it? Because that's a benefit that we have with blockchain and with cryptocurrencies. They can be extremely decentralized. Are they solving a problem? Now, that one, a lot of stock investors are very well versed at is before I invest in your company, I want to know what problem does this solve? Are other investors going to be interested in this? And with cryptos, oftentimes we look for, is there a roadmap? Can you tell us what you're working on? Who's the team? Now that one's another one that sounds maybe similar for stock investors because they want to know, well, are the directors, are the CEO, are the C-suite, are they accomplished? Can they pull this off? Well, we look for that with cryptos as well. Sometimes they're people who choose to remain anonymous. And so the digging is a little bit more challenging. And that can be frustrating to stock investors to find out that you're investing in cryptos that you don't even know who's in charge. Maybe. But that's also why sometimes we're looking at outrageous possible returns when compared to stocks, is because sometimes we do have to find other parameters that make sense to us for investing. And sometimes we're investing in something that's very early stage. Very, very early stage. And so you'd expect there to be more risk and more returns as a result of that.
And I think that leads to another final point that beginner crypto investors have so many questions about, and that is the volatility. Just like you said, some of these come in at such a low entry point, and you see so many gains and then falling just as quickly. What should investors know about maybe a expected crypto cycle, or how to know how to time at what point to get in to these different coins?
They need to know themselves. And if you think that you have a high risk tolerance, look back over your own investing history and point to some of the ones that you got absolutely right and even more absolutely wrong. And then think to yourself, if I had to go through that again, would I? And then apply that over to cryptocurrencies because maybe the secret sauce with cryptocurrencies is they trade all the time and there's very liquid markets for a lot of them, which means price discovery comes very, very quickly. If you invest in something you think is a wonderful idea, it could be a startup or it could be a crypto. And if it's a startup, there may be no price. Cryptocurrencies, there's always a price. That's where the volatility comes from, is the investors that are tug of war back and forth between, am I optimistic or am I giving up on it? There's always a price. And so that's why that to me explains that high volatility, is the cryptos are always seeking a price, even if it's a startup stage, even if it's angel or VC. Ordinarily, you wouldn't be thinking about prices, right? The price of that a VC pays, most of us don't have access to assets at that. So keep that in mind when it's to help explain the volatility. Now, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Bitcoin's a couple of $1 trillion. it's still a little bit volatile because we're trading it all the time around the world. Ethereum, hundreds of billions of dollars trading all the time around the world. So yeah, we're still, anything that happens in any of the markets can spook crypto, but it can also make crypto go up if we get really optimistic. So I know that didn't point blank answer your question about volatility, but the answer I think is it's within you that you make sure you only buy as much as you can handle the volatility on. Make sure your position size is right. Don't get caught up in the moment. Don't spend money that you can't afford to watch it go up and down. And then over time, you'll get to know your own personality. Are you willing to ride out these bumps, or do they really spook you? If they really spook you, keep your position sizes small and diversify your portfolio. And if you're really willing to ride them out, then look into being a good crypto investor, because if you can handle the volatility, you'll get exposure to a lot more potential upside. That's the other side of volatility, right? Is upside is volatility too.
It sure is. And I think that there's some investors who might be listening to this going, okay, that upside potential has me interested in getting started. But there's others who are listening saying, it's still way too volatile for me. I'm not into these kind of risky investments. If they're in that place thinking this is still too risky for me to want to invest, but also hearing there's trillions of dollars in cryptocurrency, are we to a point where you can still ignore crypto and not have it as a part of your portfolio? Or do you think that it's wiser for investors to consider adding this in as just to diversify their investments?
So I'm going to say something that maybe will surprise people. Is I'm going to say yes to both of those. Yes, it is wise to have some crypto as part of your investments. It's a disruptive technology. It's almost like you get a chance to glance back to the 1990s or the 2000s and say, how can I be an internet investor? And we know some of those .coms were great. Some of them bubbled and then popped like a tulip market or something, okay? But we're at that stage for cryptos. So you should have some exposure if you want to beat the market, beat inflation, etc. On the other hand, yes, you can make money without buying any. You just want to make sure that the companies that you're investing in are taking advantage of the efficiency, the speed, the low cost. Blockchain is a disruptive technology. Ask yourself this: if I maybe wanted to avoid internet and .com ups and downs 20 some odd years ago, would I though invest in companies that were sticking with the facts, that were sticking with bicycle couriers, etc. Right? No, you'd still want your company, even if you don't directly invest in the technology of blockchain, you'd still want to know that your company was taking advantage of AI and blockchain and efficiencies, etc. Right? So just make sure that whatever you do invest in, that you know their position on this and that they're taking advantage of it, not just as something to buy and watch the number go up, but how do we deploy these new technologies? And most of all, make sure you're not investing in something that's just abandoning the opportunity to deploy these new technologies. You wouldn't have done that for internet, right? Do you have any companies in your portfolio now that are saying, no, we don't want to have anything to do with the internet or the web or apps or phones or mobile? No, of course not. That's silly. So think of blockchain the same way. It's a technology. It's here to stay. We've got $3 trillion invested in it already, and around the world, we're seeing companies investing in it. So make sure your portfolio has some representation of that as well.
Well, thank you so much for all of the great insights today, Eric. This has been great. And if you want to learn more from Eric on crypto investing and how to get started, we have a link to his newsletter in the description of this video. Thanks again for joining us today, everyone. And as always, happy investing.